Jerry to go out and bring in a proven left tackle?
I do not, because he had an opportunity in free agency to go out and bring in proven wide receivers, or go out and bring in proven linebackers, or proven defensive linemen, and he chose not to do that. Jerry has said, we draft, we develop, and I believe in what we have on this roster. So I do not believe that Jerry is going to go outside and get an Andrew Whitworth or Eric Fisher, who's also available, who was a Pro Bowl player with the Chiefs, tore his Achilles right before the Super Bowl. They moved on, played in Indy last year, who's also a proven left tackle. He was the #1 overall draft pick about 9-10 years ago, Skip. But I do not believe Jerry is going to go outside of the building and bring someone else in to replace Tyron Smith. Said Tyron be back for the playoffs. I believe they're going to go stay within the building. I believe they moved Terrence Steele over to the left tackle from right tackle, and they're going to probably put the rookie Tyler Smith in at right tackle and then go with Connor McGovern at left guard. And so I believe that's the way they're going to play it based on Jerry's history. Because, Skip, this is what we know about Jerry. No matter how great the free agent is, he never loves free agents like he loves the guys he drafted. The guys that he drafted, Skip, he's going to hold on to them. They're like his kids. He's going to hold on to them maybe a year or two longer than what he should. But those were his guys. Those were the guys that he drafted. The guys that they identified and said, you know what, these guys need to be Dallas Cowboys. And so for me, Skip, I do not believe that Jerry's going to go. And still, Whitworth was under contract, so there would probably have to be some kind of compensation to the Rams if they were going to get Andrew Whitworth, because he signed a deal in 2020 that ran for 3 years. And so he would be theoretically under contract this season.
Okay, to your Jerry point, he has so much pride in the players he drafted because he literally drafted them. He literally made the pick.
He did.
It's his claim to fame. It's his way he stays the most inside football. It gives him the most bragging rights among his friends when they go out to dinner on a Saturday night before the game. I drafted that young man. I picked him. I picked him. He picks all of them. He has final say on draft night. He's using Will McClay's information, scouts' information, coaches' information. But in the end, Jerry makes the final call. He's the one who said, give me that CD Lamb. I love that young man. Okay. And then to your point, they all become like his kids. And he won't let go of them because he has like a family tie to them. And his pride, his huge pride, his ego is attached to the players he picked. So they're all about draft and develop because that's their claim to fame. That's the way they do business down in Big D. Okay, I got it, and it has worked fairly well because, to Jerry's credit, information, it's all been great. He's drafted very well. I can't argue with a lot of his draft picks, right? If you go back and look over the last 10, 12 drafts, they've been near the top of the list in hitting on draft picks.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, Tyron Smith goes down, and obviously it's a huge blow, but this is just me, lifelong diehard Cowboy fan. The reason I didn't overreact yesterday is I've had Tyron Smith for 12 years. And what do I have to show for it? Zero. I've had him over the last 6 years when he's been hurt for the first 3 years, 3 games each of those years. And then, as you know, the last couple of years, it's 20 total games that he's missed. Last year, he missed 14 games and needed back surgery, and yet Pro Football Focus graded him in the games that he did play, 5 games, graded him the second best tackle in all of football. Well, we know he's really good because you as a Hall of Famer, he's a Hall of Famer, right? We're pretty sure he's going to be, I think he might be first ballot Hall of Famer. And what is that?
8 Pro Bowls and 2-time first-team All-Pro, Skip.
Okay, I got it. But is he a leader in my locker room? No, he never says peep. I'm not sure. I'm not trying to be disparaging here, but I'm not sure I could pick Tyron Smith out of a lineup right now because I never see his face. I see him with his helmet on. What's that?
Skip, you can pick him out, but if you were to if someone were to start talking, because I've never heard his voice, so you definitely couldn't identify him by his voice.
No. So is he a strong presence in the locker room? No. Is he a driving force of my team on and off it? No. So it's hard for me to overreact and say, oh my God, we're dead this year. We got no chance because we lost Tyron Smith. Well, obviously he's a Hall of Famer, but he hasn't had Hall of Fame impact on my team. Okay, now back to the initial point of this whole topic. Andrew Whitworth last night was asked on the air on Thursday Night Football, and he's part of that team now on Thursday night, the Amazon team. He was asked if there's been any interest in him to continue playing. Well, remember, he's 40 years old, and he made a big, strong commitment to leave the Los Angeles Rams with, as you said, the year left on his deal, and segue off a Super Bowl victory into his next career as a broadcaster. And he's very glib and witty and very quotable, and I think he'll be a great broadcaster. Yet he readily admits that the Dallas Cowboys yesterday were burning up his phone. And yet he says it's been a busy day of answering calls, but the problem is they're calling and texting the wrong person. They need to be texting and calling Melissa Whitworth and the kids because they have final approval over whether I'm going to play football again. Well, this seems like the flip side of Tom Brady because it seems like in the end that wife and kids don't have the final call on that one, final approval.
They do not.
Okay? But in this case, he's just saying, hey, call her. Ask my kids, are they okay with it? Because clearly they're not okay with it. But he seemed to be a little on the fence. So two things are operating here, Shannon, that I guess pleasantly shocked me. Number one, the Cowboys sought Andrew Whitworth yesterday. Even at age 40 last year with the Rams, he was graded by Pro Football Focus as the 5th best tackle, and he played the whole year. Well, that's pretty great. So they believe they can just plug and play Andrew Whitworth.
Didn't he put out a tweet last night saying the Cowboys hadn't actually called? I think he put out a tweet trying to clarify.
Maybe you know something I don't.
I think let us pull that. If I'm not mistaken, I think Steve was telling me something about he tried to clarify it.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
Again,
but can I go back? Can I go back to one point about Tyron Smith, Skip?
Yeah.
Most offensive linemen, Skip, their presence is really never heard. I mean, I played with two guys, and one of them, if I'm not mistaken, made the 100th anniversary team.
Yep.
Jonathan Ogden and Gary Zimmerman. And Zim basically said nothing.
Yep.
J.O. basically said nothing. But their presence was all about domination on the field.
I got it.
Do no talking. There was nothing to be said. So I think Tyron Smith falls in that line.
Sure.
Most offensive linemen don't have a whole lot to talk about, but you're going to miss him. Terrence Steele will do a good job, but he ain't Ty Smith. That guy has 8 Pro Bowls and 2 first-team All-Pros on his resume in 12 years. So that lets you know what players, coaches, and fans, especially the players and the coaches, think about him.
Okay.
And when you look at what Dak has been able to do, Skip, and how they segue from DeMarco Murray leading the league in rushing, Zeke leading the league in rushing twice, even McFadden got over 1,000 yards. He's been a dominating presence on that offensive line. So I don't want, because we can't pick it, probably couldn't pick him out. I could pick him out, but I wouldn't know his voice. Just because he's not one of those quarterback, wide receiver, or running back, don't underestimate his value or his presence will be missed in that locker room. Now, back to this. Skip, like I said, I believe Whitworth is going to need, the Rams are going to want some compensation. And we know how Jerry is about giving up compensation to get players. Jerry would prefer to be able to go out and just get the guy. Well, when you draft a guy, you don't have to give up compensation. That's why Jerry is, after that big trade, you mentioned the trade that he made for Charles Haley.
Yep.
He doesn't really do it. He's not been really. No. He felt he got burned, Skip, with the Joey Galloway trade and the Roy Williams trade. He felt he got burned. So since then, he's kind of gotten away from the trading business. Like, look, we're going to draft or we're going to go out in free agency and get a guy, but we're not going to give up cap compensation and the guy not be able to fulfill the obligation with being the player that we thought we were getting.
Yeah, and do remember, they all got burned by Terrell Owens because Bill Parcells rejected the notion of Terrell Owens. So that was really the last hurrah.
But Skip, T.O. was a free agent. Jerry just signed it. They didn't have to give up because Philly released him.
No, but I mean, he went out and got somebody, which they just haven't been doing very much.
Yeah.
Went out and got a superstar.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
correct,
but my point to you about Whitworth, whether it's happening or not, that there's some indication then that Dallas had some interest in him. there's some indication that they're desperate enough to go out and get somebody. It makes me go down the list. You brought up Eric Fisher. He did not play well coming off his Achilles tear for the Colts last year. The most intriguing player maybe available to me is Belichick's player, Isaiah Wynn. Once upon a time, he was the 23rd overall pick, and it seems like he's in the doghouse and available there. I don't know what you'd have to give for him. Maybe a third, maybe a second. I don't know, but maybe it'd be worth it. Maybe Jerry needs to give up a draft pick to try to, I don't want to say save the season because I'm not that desperate, but again, I think they think their kids aren't quite ready. They love all the kids that they've drafted, starting with Tyler Smith, their first rounder this year, and yet I think they've decided they're not ready to play left or right tackle quite yet. So it seems like they're going to be in some market to go outside and find somebody. Jason Peters is also 40, and yet I'm going to remind you, Shannon, remember how Jerry devalued offensive linemen. Lyle Collins, he just thought wasn't playing up to his contract. So when they had a window to get out of the contract because they really didn't owe him any guaranteed money after last year, they just dumped him.
Right.
And he was making $8 million last year, and since he jumped all over it, and he will make $8 million to play for Cincinnati this year and be their starting right tackle, right? So Jerry just devalued that position, said, well, I can put an undrafted free agent, Terrence Steele, over there and be just fine.
Skip, remember last time he thought he could just plug in an offensive lineman. That got hit in his head about 8 times, and one guy had 6 of those sacks.
He did.
It's not that easy. I mean, practice is one thing, but when you get into a game and those lights get bright and you're not used to being in that moment, you have to understand, Skip, Tyron Smith is as good as it gets at the left tackle position. He understands angles. He understands who he's dealing with, what the guy likes to do, try to neutralize that, and also in the back of his mind, getting ready to try to neutralize a secondary move. Guys that don't play on a regular basis, they have their hands full the first couple of games. So I'm thinking Jerry probably goes into the season trying to say, you know what, let's see what our youngsters have. And if they don't meet what Jerry thinks is up to par, then he might go out and look to get a Whitworth and try to make a deal with the Rams, or maybe get a Fisher. Skip, I believe that might be one of the tougher injuries to come back for an offensive lineman.
Agreed.
Because you have to realize, Skip, to try to kick back out of that slide and then try to brace yourself to try to hold a 300-pound man up. So I believe he will be better this year than he was last year. But knowing Jerry, you know Jerry, and I've kind of watched him from a distance. Jerry loved the guys that he drafts because he wants to be proven right. Because if I draft a guy, Skip, he gets in and play well, look at your boy. What other 32 owners, Skip, other than Jerry, can say, you know what, your boy picked him? That's me. That's me over there.
Okay, remember, their battered pride is really on the line with Tyler Smith, who they picked toward the bottom of the first round last year, obviously.
Correct.
And remember, they left on the table a center who went to the Ravens and could be a perennial Pro Bowler. They left a pass rusher on the table. The Jets swooped up and grabbed, who could be a Pro Bowler. He's ACC Defensive Player of the Year at Florida State.
Defensive Player of the Year, yes.
Okay, so they believe in Tyler Smith, maybe to a fault, but they clearly, Shannon, they drafted him to be the next Tyron Smith. He is the future left tackle. Well, all he did at Tulsa last year was lead all of college football in penalties. But from what I've seen him at left guard, and you made the point it's a little easier to maul left guard because it's more in a restricted area. You don't have to worry about fast twitch off the edge.
Correct.
Yeah, you don't have to have that quick of feet off the edge to deal with the edge rushers. But the point is,
correct.
Tyler Smith has had 3 penalties in 2 games already, no surprise, but he's been mauling and balling. And I have this sneaking suspicion they're going to say, we drafted him to play left tackle. Let's just close our eyes and put him out there because he ain't afraid and he will fight. He will compete. Well, you could also get your quarterback killed if he's not quite ready to do it. But knowing them, they'll just say, watch this, because they took such a beating overtaking Tyler Smith, especially from Mel Kiper, who just said it was the worst reach in the first round.
Okay.
You know what, guys? Whit was my very first sports interview back during our days at LSU. He's going to be fantastic on Thursday Night Football. I'm excited to watch this next step in his career. Or if he takes the football field again, I won't be mad at that either.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.